Thanks so much for joining us as we talk about how to leverage Kuali to improve your curriculum management and approval processes. My name is Sarah Crane, and I'm the Student Product Manager here at Kuali. Today, I'm joined by Sean Warren, Kuali Student Implementation Manager. Sean is going to be giving us our demo because he's the expert at helping institutions successfully integrate all of the amazing solutions that we'll be discussing today. Before I turn the time over to Sean, I want to give a brief introduction to Kuali and why we created the solutions we'll be talking about. Just as a heads up, if you have any questions during this webinar, you can submit them at any time using the question box. We will address as many as possible at the end. So the following few slides include some common complaints that we hear all of the time from higher education administrators around the world, especially when it comes to curriculum management and approval processes. As we read through them, see if any of them apply to you and your institution. So are your processes and workflows out of date? Are you ready to say goodbye to paper forms, buried emails, walks across campus, and other barriers to progress? Is simultaneously managing thousands of courses and programs chaotic? And is there a disconnect between different faculty and administration members, especially when it comes to approvals and workflows? Are you ready to give your institution's unique educational offering the spotlight it deserves? So we're here to help. Kuali helps solve these and many more challenges that colleges and universities face on a daily basis when it comes to curriculum management and approval processes. Our story is a bit unique. Kuali's curriculum management software was designed in collaboration with some of the world's leading colleges and universities. They demanded a better solution, and we wanted to help. We began working closely with those who would actually be using these tools. We listened and listened. Needed to do their jobs well. The best things about the way we're structured and universities is that the community. We're all together to improve. So I of Kuali. I think you'll see why as Sean gives a demo of curriculum management, but I want to highlight a few things before we jump in. So first of all, it's powerful. If your curricular offering includes thousands of courses and programs that are constantly evolving, you need something more powerful to manage them effectively. Kuali does a lot, with more and more features being added all the time. Secondly, it's simple. We strive for simplicity in all that we do here at Kuali. We want our tools to make your life and processes easier. Accessing and making updates to your content is extremely simple and immediate using Kuali's curriculum management. It's also flexible. We provide the plug-and-play templates, but we also work with a lot of our curriculum management users to customize our tools to meet their specific needs. It's continuous. Because Kuali's cloud-based user access, because Kuali's is cloud-based, users can access it on any internet browser rather than having to install software on their computer. Updates are made automatically, so you're always working with the most current version. It's also mobile. This is another benefit of being cloud-based. Use Kuali on a computer, on a tablet, or on a mobile device. It's designed to look and function well on all of them. It's also safe. If you use Kuali, we know you'll all love it. But if you ever did decide to leave or cut ties with us, we would make the code available to you so that you're not losing the resources and information you've worked so hard to build out. All right, now I'm going to turn the time over to Sean Warren for the demo. Again, if you have any questions that come to mind, please ask them in the question box, and we'll try to answer them at the end of the webinar.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I'm hoping you can see my screen, but I believe you can. Welcome, everyone. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy days. We know it's difficult. I want to jump in and spend as much time as I can talking and demonstrating the software, but we are going to leave time at the end for any questions you have. Now, we only have, less than an hour, clearly, so the demonstration I'm going to give is going to be a bit at a high level, but I want to start by giving you a very high-level walkthrough of the application, describing what it was designed to do, and basically how to navigate the software so you know what you're looking at as I navigate through. And then I'm going to circle back and dig deeper into some of the features and functionality that I think are really that deliver the most value to our customers. So the screen that we see right now is the typical screen that a user would see when they log into the system. There's obviously going to be different types of users that use this application differently, depending on their role on the campus. If you're an administrator related to curriculum, you're probably going to have this open quite a bit, see this screen frequently. A faculty person that might be proposing a course or a program once or twice a year is obviously not going to be looking at this application very often. They're probably going to access this application through an email notification asking them to act. Like if they're involved in one of the approval processes, when it's their turn to act, they're going to be sent an email and they can link directly to where they need to do their work. So as we're looking at the application here, I do have a cursor with a little circle on it to make it a little bit easier to see it. I'm just going to give you some general navigational instruction. On the left-hand side, on all of our screens, we have our items, things that we define as your curricular assets and other tools for doing that curricular approval work. You can see here we've got courses and programs and specializations. Some institutions call those emphases. You don't have to use all of these features if it doesn't apply to the way that you run your institution, but they are available for you. Each of these here, we're looking at courses, and you can see we've got a list of courses. We've got, in fact, almost 1,400 courses. So we've built performance into the system so that it can accommodate a small institution and even a larger institution. We have a customer with over 50,000 courses. We also are managing programs. Now, the important thing to remember with this system, Kuali Curriculum Management is the canonical record of your courses, programs, specializations. And what that means is this is the birthplace, the life cycle, through all the years of changes that a course or a program might go through, and perhaps eventually its retirement. And so this is the life history of your curriculum. And again, we have the ability to track all the different curricular assets you have. And again, I'll dig in a little bit deeper here shortly. So again, navigationally, this is how we get to our different pieces of curriculum. On the top, we have our ability to get to different parts of the application. Depending on your role, you may need to get to different pieces. There are just users, of course, and there are also administrators that have to make sure the system is consistent and current with the way that your university operates as your college and or university evolves over time. Every user that has a role or a responsibility in the system will have an action list. And an action list is the list of things that you've been called upon to act on. And so if you're a dean or a chairperson in a department, you are probably going to be called on to act to approve various different things. And of course, you're going to be receiving that email, but you're also going to have this running action list of your marching orders, so to speak, all the things that are waiting on you to act. And typically on our right-hand side, we have our actions. We always have our Create New button. And as you'll see as I dive into one of our courses, it's also, on the right-hand side is where we're going to see all of the actions that an approver might take. And again, always located in the same location. Once you've mastered the approval process for courses, there's really no learning curve to do the same for programs. So what we're looking at right now is an example of a hypothetical course at a hypothetical college. This is English 344. And I'm going to quickly just look at a few things in this course, and then we'll move on and look at a little bit of programs, and then I'll circle back and and show you the experience of using this system from the perspective of a faculty person that is an approver, and how they would go about doing their work, the whole process. All right, so we're just looking at a course form here. Now, the most important thing I could tell you about this course form, and you'll see fields that you absolutely recognize, is that everything you see here is completely configurable. Every label for a particular field, the location of a field, the label of a panel, and the panel also is connected to the table of contents so that you can quickly move around the form. Everything you see here is completely up to you. There is no set schema. So we can typically take your existing course forms and program forms, whether they're for new courses or changes to existing courses, and we can translate those into this system. We can lay them out pretty much exactly the way you probably have them laid out now, and that way the adoption of this product is that much easier for the user, because once they log in and they look at the form, things are going to be located where they expect to see them. So again, all these fields are what you would expect to see. The same applies for programs. Programs have their own form. So again, with programs, you can choose what fields where. And the other thing that we do is that, this isn't just the ability to collect a bunch of text. In other words, digitizing a piece of paper. This system, we've designed a number of purpose-built tools that we often reference to as gadgets. And we use these tools in various different ways depending on the nature and the amount of data. And the reason why we use different tools at different times is because one of the goals of using a system like Kuali CM is to enhance your ability to report on your data. And to be able to do that, you must control the quality of the data that goes into the system. So at every attempt possible, we want to load institutional data that's already been governed and approved. We load that into the system as part of the implementation process using our very simple APIs. And then we use various different gadgets to expose that data to the user so they make selections from proven, properly spelled values. And again, that way you've got that consistency that you can later use in reporting. So again, we've got the different forms, and we have other aspects of the application that I'll get to, but I do want to circle around really quickly. Again, this is the high-level beginning of the demo. We also have workflow. So the workflow piece is a piece, if you've worked with other applications like I have, workflow can be a highly technical thing to get set up, and technical and to get it modified, because over time at your institutions, you reorg and things change, and you need to make changes to the workflow. The important thing to understand with Kuali Curriculum Management is that you have a unique workflow for each of your curricular assets. So the courses can have their own workflow, the programs can have their own workflow, and these other forms we provide, specializations and even a policy form, which is used in the catalog, they can all have their own workflow. Now, what I love about this application being in my role and having to work with universities to get their workflow working properly so that the right people are informed at the right time is everything that I'm doing is visual and done through the UI. This is an absolutely non-technical way of creating a workflow and managing and tweaking a workflow over time. And I'll briefly show you exactly what I mean. So I'm looking at a very simplistic workflow. And if I wanted to make a change to this workflow, again, not technically, I could just go into the system through this UI, and this is something that we teach administrators during the implementation process, and I could add another category. Let's say that I want the department, I want to create a conditional rule that sometimes some members of the department look at things, let's say if it's a graduate level course, and perhaps other different people would look at things if it's an undergraduate course. So there are various different ways that we can modify this workflow, add different approver types, and really create a unique experience in just a few seconds with absolutely no technical assistance required. So let's say that I've chosen to modify this workflow in this way. Another thing that I can do is, again, as I mentioned before, is I can create a workflow rule. So I want to make sure I'm using a field on the form. The way that the workflow works here, much like other workflow systems, is that you can create rules around your business rules in workflow. And those rules are typically using data that is pulling directly from the form. So if I wanted to create a conditional step that says, I only want the chair, in this case, to see this proposal only if it's a brand new proposal, So I'm saying if this is a create, which means brand new, then I only want the chair involved. And then I also want to control what the chair can do. So I'm good with that there. All right, and so I'm going to go ahead and take a look, and I'm going to say this chairperson is allowed to approve. There's only one of them, so it's a single vote, but if there was more than one, we could change the way that voting works, and I'm going to allow this proposer to actually edit. And sometimes I don't want a given approver to be able to edit, and I can adjust the configuration to accommodate for that. We also are capable of mandating that certain fields on the form are required at a particular place in workflow, or even required before something's allowed to be submitted to workflow. Again, I can control exactly when to apply that type, that type of rule, and to get us back to where we need to be. All right, there's one last thing with workflow that I do want to show you as I log in here. All right, so again, you've got a unique workflow for each of these. And the other thing that we can do is there's a lot of questions about what if we've got other entities at our campus that are interested in learning or knowing about a given proposal may be in progress. Well, there's a way that we can do that as well. We can actually create branching in workflow so that we're capable of saying if a certain department is involved, we want it to go down this particular path. But if a different department, often let's say it's a graduate level entity versus undergrad, we could create multiple different paths using logic and business rules. So again, incredibly flexible. If there was multiple different types, we could do that as well. So again, drag and drop, very simple, non-technical way of managing workflow. Okay, so that's just a high level of workflow. We have a couple of different things that I'll show you, but I'll show you in the context of actually doing some work. So the typical experience for someone using this application is that they're an approver and they receive a notification in their email that's asking them to act. So there's some proposal in their purview that they have a responsibility to act on. I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the email typically you would get. It indicates exactly what you're being asked to approve. I'm going to go ahead and link over, taking that link, and it's going to take me exactly to where I need to be to do my work. So I'm an approver. You can see here that I am the Department Curriculum Committee member, and it is my opportunity or responsibility really to act. So I have various different things I can do. The first thing I might do is take a look at the workflow, see where it's been before it reached me, to get my context for what I'm doing. So this is what we call the workflow tracker, and this is a feature that I think I get the most feedback about. This is really the wow moment, the real tangible value that most users feel immediately when using the system, is that at any moment in time, you can always find out exactly where a proposal lives in the approval process. So there's no mystery about if it's on someone's desk, if it's fallen behind their desk, or just not knowing where a proposal might be in the process. We always know. We always know exactly when it was submitted, so I can go back and see who submitted it. We can see where it is now, and any user is capable of going in and, given the right permission level, and find out exactly where these proposals live. There's also reports we can look at where you can aggregate and see all of the proposals in one report view. I also am capable of looking at what's coming ahead and knowing the various roles and people, in fact, that are going to be involved in the approval process. But right now, it's with me. I'm the Department Curriculum Committee person that's in charge of approving or not approving. And obviously, I want to take a look and understand what's different about this proposal than the existing course. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look. What we've done is that we're using both colors and words to accommodate different types of people, to reflect what's changed. So there's no mystery to the approver what exactly they're approving. We can see here there's color coding, so the term is different. This is going to start in 2022. There's actually a bit of a summary here of the things that have changed. So this is one indication to the approver what to look out for. The visual is the other. You can see that there's been a change to the long title, there's been a credit change, there's various different things that have changed. But in the context of this, I'm actually someone, I have the permission to make changes. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this proposal while it's in workflow. So as I go in and edit, part of what I'm doing here is showing you exactly how a user interacts with the software and entering data. So again, we talked about various different tools that we use to control the quality of the data integrity. One of those things that we do is we use auto-population, and we use things like type ahead. So this is an example. So we've already preloaded all of the subject codes, and as a user, I just choose the one I want, and that auto-populates the department. I know this is a valid value that I can later use in a report. So that's just one example of a purpose-built tool for ensuring data quality. There's a couple other tools in the course form that I think are unique and are really the ones that deliver the most value, in my opinion. We know that many institutions have a notion of either a cross-listed course or a course that doesn't perhaps exist on its own, but a course actually has two different names, even though it's delivered by the same person in the same classroom. In our system today, we just call that an alias. You can call it whatever you'd like. But what we've done is we've set it up to where the course alias is now a searchable component. So a student in accounting might be taking Accounting 345 because that's what they should have in their transcript, but in reality, it's actually the same as English 344. So we can reflect that with aliases and search by either and end up finding the correct record. So that's a cool feature that one of our customers gave us feedback on and we developed. Another part, a big part of the application is the ability to create rules, and very complex rules if necessary, in a very structured way that can later be enforced downstream in your other systems as part of your SIS. So you can see here that this is the tool for creating rules. I have a variety of different logical statements that I can start with. Of course, with a course, typically completed or concurrently enrolled in is the most common, but as we get into programs, the complexity of these rules increases, but you can see that all of this logic I have to work with, we can create hundreds of different variants of rules to accommodate just about any situation. But again, as a user, I don't need to worry about spelling or guessing on subject codes or numbers. I just can go in and pick from a valid value. These are real courses. So again, very simple to add or remove requirements for a particular course. In this case here, we're collecting prerequisites, but we also can collect co-requisites in exactly the same fashion. Very simple for the user. Again, the whole purpose of Kuali Curriculum Management is improving your current processes through quality and through speed. So that's this rules gadget is a very powerful one. Another gadget that was greatly influenced by a number of our customers and partners is the outcomes gadget. And the outcomes tool or gadget is intended to allow an institution to specifically assign or link a course's outcome, learning outcome, with a program's learning outcome. And from an accreditation perspective, the ability to prove that your courses are teaching students the skills that the program and or degree they end up with promises. And this is how we can very quickly in real time keep track of the relationship between a course's specific outcome and various programs that might share that outcome. And again, if there's more than one program that has a shared course outcome, I can add that. And what I'm looking at here is an actual list of approved programs in this system. So I know this is a valid linkage that I'm making. There's also a report that we've created in advance, and I'll show you in a few seconds, that in real time can show you this relationship backwards and forwards between courses outcomes and program outcomes. This is an activity that many of our customers have indicated takes them weeks, if not months, to compile with their current systems or paper systems. But with our system in real time, this information is ready to produce in a report and share with whomever is asking this type of information. And finally, this feature is called the dependency analysis feature, or here we call it dependencies. And what this feature is about, as a person who's interacting with this proposal, or the creator or an approver, it is critical that you understand that this change to this particular course is going to impact other programs and courses that depend on this course. So what this is telling us, that this specialization, these two courses, and this program depend on English 344. And if I'm making a substantive change to this particular course in this proposal, I may very well affect these courses. So I can make sure to communicate with the owners of these other curricular assets to inform them that there's a change and they need to make sure that they're okay with it, because we might need to change that relationship. So this insight is clearly something hard, very hard to do in a paper-driven process. So that's just a few of the what I think are the high-level benefits of this system, or really valuable aspects of it. But again, I want to show you exactly what it looks like from the perspective of this approver. So I'm this faculty person. I've looked at these changes. I've made a few myself. I'm happy with what I see. I can either approve, I could send it back, I could reject it, meaning I just don't think this is good for the university. I can do a few other things. I could print and duplicate. But I do want to show you kind of the process here. If I'm choosing to approve, which I can do, I can offer a comment. And this comment is going to live with this record in perpetuity. So we can always go back in history and take a look at who approved and the comments they made during the process. We're going to call that comment 1. So I'm approving. I've approved, a little color change to know that things are happening. You can see that this actually here has changed. Now we're at the department chair, who I happen to be as well for the demo. And I can go back and look at my comment before. I can go back and look when it was submitted. So all of this mystery often in the approval process is been unraveled. And you can see exactly what's going on, exactly where this lives at any given time. I also, as I mentioned before, have the ability to send back. So maybe there's something about this proposal that just doesn't sit right with me, but I don't feel comfortable making the edit, or I don't even have editing rights. That's completely configurable. So I'm going to send it back and say this is not good enough, in the interest of not spending too much time typing. And I want it to, whatever is done to improve this, I want to make sure this goes all the way back through the workflow. But if I felt the change was really minor and it was just a typo change, I could select to say, you know what, skip going through everyone else again. They've already approved it. This is minor. Send it directly back to me and I'll approve it. So that's an option that you have. You can disable that if your institution demands it. So I'm going to go ahead and send it back. I'm going to decide that I want to send it back to the previous node or any node before me. And I've done that now. And you'll see a change here. And now it's back with the comment I made, and the previous approver now can make the changes and do whatever necessary to get it back into the workflow. So again, this workflow tracker is a really powerful tool that really changes the way that universities contemplate understanding where things are in the approval process. All right, so I'm being careful of time here. A couple of other linkages that we have between a course and a program, for example. I did show you the outcome linkage between the outcomes in a course and particular outcomes in a program. There's other linkages that we have as well. So I showed you the dependency analysis that shows what other courses and programs are using courses as part of their rules. But there's a few things that I wanted to show that I referenced before. So this is also a rules creating tool. It is actually the same tool that we use in the courses, but as I had indicated before, because programs are simply more complex, you can see an example of much greater complexity where we've laid this out very much like you would expect to see in a catalog, where you can put labels and complete one of many. There's a lot of flexibility here in creating very complex rules. We also, based on feedback from our customers and partners, have put a running tally of the number of credits, so that as you're building a program, you have a very good sense that you've reached that threshold of 120 or whatever your program demands, but you're not guessing and you're not using a spreadsheet on the side figuring out if you have enough credits. So that's a nice feature. Now, the last thing I'll show you here is the other side of that relationship I referenced before. This is the linking of outcomes. And you can see here, this is the backlink in the other direction. So again, there are various different ways that we can connect a course and a program and specializations to show that there's a relationship between them. So let's take a look now at a specialization. A specialization as defined in this configuration is a flavor of a program. So you can have an accounting program, and perhaps this is forensic accounting. And what we do here is there are special tools that we're able to use so that we're not forcing the user to copy and paste information that already lives in a program, because this is a child of a particular program. So what we've done is we can use inheritance gadgets. And once I've looked up the parent here, then I can go ahead and pull over this information, saving the user a lot of typing and speeding up the process altogether, especially when it's identical information shared between a program and its various children specializations. So that's kind of the main thing there. And again, a specialization may have its own requirements, and we can use the rules gadget here to do that. Okay, so we've looked at courses and programs and specializations. The most important things about what you're seeing is that we have purpose-built tools to ensure data integrity, and you can make these forms behave and look any way you'd like. There is no set schema that you need to fall into. All right, there's other functionality that I'll show you real quickly. We've received a lot of feedback from customers about the need to enable the curriculum committee process, to make that process better than it currently is. And we've recently released a product or a feature called the agenda feature. And the agenda feature is simply a way that someone, a committee chairperson, a committee person, can go in and create an agenda for a curriculum meeting based on the proposals that are currently in the system. So you can see here in this agenda building, this is its own form. So again, we could put whatever fields we want, collect whatever data we want. We can add attendees. We can add attachments if that's relevant. And then we can add the proposals that we care about, that we want to be voting on in the next meeting. And again, we've already said exactly when the meeting time is, the location, and these attendees are going to be emailed informing them that their attendance is required to vote on these various things. And this gives them time to go and look at those in advance so that the meeting progresses more quickly. Now, in creating these, there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. If you're the committee organizer, you can, of course, elect to just go and free select random proposals, just like we would in the course form. But often, we want to make sure that the committee meeting is reflecting the actual progress of workflow. So we're going to pick actually from workflow. So we're going to go in, and we want to find the things that are already waiting on this committee to vote on. And we can do that very easily. So we're going to select from workflow. And now I'm looking at the workflow. I only care to look at things related to the departments of arts and science. So now I can see these are all of the proposals that are waiting at this point for this approval. And I can add those to the agenda, and I can quickly create the agenda for that next committee meeting. So this is a feature that, again, has recently come out, and our customers are absolutely loving it. Again, you have a bird's eye view of exactly where everything lives in the process, and you can always link over and take a look at it during the meeting to make sure that everyone is reading from the same clipboard. So that's a great new feature called the agenda feature. And finally, I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about reporting. Most of the information in the system we've already pre-created a bunch of canned reports that work immediately out of the box. So there's no aspect of the implementation where we have to focus on reporting, which can take, as many of you know, lots of time. We have a lot of reports that come directly out of the box. So I mentioned before that we have a report that shows the relationship between course and program outcomes. And I'll show you what that looks like quickly. Now again, compiling this information when this information is stored on paper is clearly quite tedious. But in our system, this information is always available in real time. So right now I can see specifically that I have particular courses, they have particular outcomes, they are linked to specific programs and those program outcomes. And in fact, we have a third level outcome they could link to if you have a higher level institutional outcome like teamwork or project management. You could assign that relationship as well. So we can manage multiple level of outcomes and specifically demonstrate how coursework leads to what a degree promises, the university promises people when you get that degree. And any of these reports you can always export to various different formats. There's a few other reports I'll show you that our users really like. And I referenced it before. This is a report of courses. Let's say I have a chairman for a department that asks to see weekly a report on proposals in progress. Well, I can do that. So I want to look at what courses, in this case, this is a course report, so these have been approved, but these are all of the English courses. If I wanted to make a change to this, and I wanted to see a different subject codes courses, I could do that as well. So if I wanted to go with math, I could do that as well. So we can very quickly and very simply create ad hoc reports based on information in the system, save those reports, and then if this is a report that I'm being asked every week by this department chair, I don't have to recreate it. I've just saved it. I've given it a name. I can run it. I can export it. I can print it. And this information, again, is at my fingertips. And in fact, all users have the ability to get to reports. And I'll show you real quickly. We have a number of reports that cover everything from programs to things that are proposals, as well as outcomes and courses. So that's something, again, that comes directly out of the box. The last piece of thing, the last few things that I'll show you is, and this is something that we've improved upon, is just managing the proposal process. So some users would benefit from using a report, but other tactical users, day-to-day users of the system, admins, might need to go in and directly look at proposals. Now, there can be an infinite number of drafts because any user can start a proposal. But once something's in workflow, then that's the sort of thing that chances are you may be asked to create some sort of report showing where things are. This is just another way that you can do that. You can find what's in the proposal process, and again, you can do filtering. You could also just simply use the type ahead here, which instantly filters based on your typing. So we've talked about courses, the forms. We've talked about you can use a unique form for every type of curricular asset. We have the workflow. We have the workflow tracker. It's drag and drop. We've got canned reports, and we've recently added the ability to enhance a committee's ability to know what to put into their agenda for a particular meeting. At this point, we're getting close to time. I do want to leave plenty of time to not only answer questions, but have the opportunity to show things related to questions that you have. So Sarah, do we have any questions that we can address now? And maybe I can, if I can demonstrate the answer, I will do that as well.
Yeah, so one of the questions that we got was if someone wants to configure their curriculum management settings, mm-hmm. How do they manage that process, and how do they get these forms, as you mentioned, to match the forms that they have at their institution?
That's a very good question. So part of the implementation process, and I'm actually the person that has worked with the majority of our customers, well, all of them in fact, it's a very close interaction that I have with the customer. And currently, I'm the one that takes all of those requirements and I translate that in configuring the form. So I have a form building tool that we're working on improving to make it customer facing. But the initial version that I use today was never intended to be customer facing, so it's not the experience we want to share. But my tool I use daily, and it's easy for me to use. And so what we do, and it literally is on a daily basis, is I typically, during implementation, will collect a paper version of your current forms and your workflow. And in advance of me ever coming on site to start the implementation officially, I configure a blank instance of Kuali CM with your form and your workflow. So when I show up, we walk through every piece of that form based on my initial view of what you were looking for. And then we talk about opportunities for making changes based on the fact that we have different technology than you may have had, than you of course would have on a paper form. So most of the configuration is done literally by me. But again, it would probably, if I were given your paper form for a brand new course or a course change, it would probably take about 45 minutes for me to replicate that in this system. And that's soon a function that you'll be able to do yourself. Customers will have an opportunity to do that configuration very soon with some new features that we're putting out within the next year. There is one more thing that I did want to point out that I hadn't pointed out before, and it's a question related to continuous delivery. So we're constantly putting out improvements to the software, whether it's a fix to something that's not working quite right or some brand new functionality that our customers have been asking for that we've been working on. We, of course, in the middle of a cycle, of a curriculum approval cycle, we don't want to randomly change the user experience for your users such that they would actually need new training in the middle of the year. So what we do is we actually put new features behind something that we call a feature flag. So if there's a feature that is going to have an impact on the user experience, we'll put it behind a feature flag. And what that means is we're going to create release notes. We're going to have images and screenshots and videos and user stories explaining what this new feature does. But then we'll also indicate that you can go and turn this feature on in one of your sandbox instances, give it a try, make sure it's correct, augment, tweak your documentation for your users until you're absolutely ready to release it, and then you can go in and enable that new feature. So it's happening in the background, but we're not going to thrust that on you if it's going to have a major change to the way the software behaves. So that's one thing that I'd forgotten before that I'm glad that we had a chance to bring up.
Okay, thank you, Sean. We're going to move on for just a moment and then give everybody a time to get in their last questions. One thing that we wanted to talk about was another tool that we have that we didn't quite have time to go over today, and that is our Kuali Catalog Management tool. So our Catalog Management tool is a method that you can use in conjunction with Kuali Curriculum Management to manage how your staff, how your students get access to all of this curriculum that you have created through our curriculum management tool. It was built to work hand in hand with curriculum management, and to put it very simply, it allows you to take all of that curriculum management data, like your courses, your program information, and turn it into that catalog that's ready for print and digital use. As we know, a lot of our students and faculty are relying more and more on those online catalogs, and it's built to work really well and seamlessly with our curriculum management tool to enable users to go online and find the information that's most relevant to them. You can customize your catalog to add letters from the president, campus directories, campus maps. There's all kinds of very rich features that you can use in catalog, including addenda that shows any changes that you've made over the course of the year, and that can help your advisors, your students, to see, how maybe some of those changes have affected them. So if you're interested in hearing more about catalog, we're going to talk in just a moment about how you can do that. If you'd like to hear more about curriculum management, if you'd like to hear more about our implementation process, pricing, any of that sort of information, Paul Hauser, who you see listed here, he's our Director of Customer Engagement, and he's the one that you want to reach out to. Feel free, though, of course, to contact myself, Sarah Crane, the Product Manager for Curriculum Management and Catalog, and also Sean, who was so kind to do our demo today. He's our Implementation Manager, as we mentioned, and he is excellent at determining how to take what we offer in curriculum management and catalog and customize that to your specific institution. We've had just a couple of other questions that have come in. So the first one is, can you use the curriculum management solution without using catalog? So the answer to that is yes, you can. If you have your own catalog management tool that you want to use, you can still use Kuali Curriculum Management, and we can always engage in some conversations about how to send that information from curriculum management to the catalog that you're using. We feel like obviously your best option is to use our catalog tool, since it's designed to work so seamlessly with our curriculum management tool. But that is definitely an option, and of course you can, as I mentioned, reach out to Paul or myself or Sean if you have more questions about that. One other question we had, what integration resources are available? So we have standard APIs that are supported and documented that you can use. We also have an event management system called Kinesis that you can use as well. We've basically covered the gamut as far as how you can get that data out of our system. And typically what we do when we're working with an institution is work closely with their IT staff, or if there's a particular integration that they're looking to use, we'll work with that other company to determine what the best method is to integrate that data. But yes, we have APIs, Kinesis, our event management system, and we also have a lot of reports, as Sean mentioned. Okay, next question. Can you put limits on what people can propose for a course or program? So yes, the way that you would address that is you would use, as Sean was showing you, the configuration for that proposal. So if there are only certain things that you want people to be able to propose, then you would control that using the configuration. We have, let's say you're updating a course or a program, and you don't want to change something fundamental about that course or program. We have something called progressive disclosure. And what progressive disclosure does is it allows you to essentially hide certain criteria or certain fields on your forms, so that given certain conditions, like is this an update to a course or a program, or is this a brand new course or a program, things of that nature, you can really closely determine what fields are even available for your proposers to fill out. Sean is really excellent at working through these scenarios with our institutions that we work with, and so we're always available to talk through specifically what you're thinking of, but in general that's how we allow institutions to configure what their proposers are allowed to do. Yes, next question. When you refer to programs, is that where we would include a course relationship to majors and minors? I'm not quite sure. I think what you're asking here is programs where you house both majors and minors. We have several different ways of addressing this. Typically what we do is we have either you put this all into programs, so you put all of your majors, all of your minors into programs. If you have emphases or specializations, we have a separate tool called Specializations that allows you to do that. But yes, in answer to your question, programs is the generic term that we use by default to refer to majors and minors, but that is also configurable. So if there is something in particular that you would like that label to be that's specific to the vernacular at your institution, you could change that to indicate as such. Okay. Well, if we weren't able to get to your question, we will definitely reach out to you individually, and so look forward to that. We will contact you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking out your time. We know this is a very busy time of year for most institutions. We'll be sending a video of this webinar to you all, so if you want to share this with your colleagues or review the content we've gone over. And if you've enjoyed this webinar, we encourage you to participate in our next webinar that will be at the end of this month. It's on October 25th at 1:30 Eastern Time. We'll be hearing from Lindy Duff, who's the Director of Curriculum Management and Technology at the University of Utah. She'll be speaking about using workflow at her institution and how she has configured her workflow to work best with how the University of Utah handles all of these processes around approvals and course modifications throughout the year. So again, that's October 25th at 1:30 Eastern Time, and we'll be sending out to you all some of the information about how to register for that. So we look forward to seeing you there. Again, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, or feedback. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.